The 9 to 5 grind was soul-crushing enough, and all I wanted was to unwind with a novel, maybe even get some sleep. Instead, I found myself rage-reading, on the verge of full-blown aneurysm, thanks to the protagonist. The guy was a world champion doormat. Caught between getting angry and getting even, he chose to get pathetic, letting his girlfriend and her male bestie walk all over him until he was broke, alone, and dead from depression. Seriously? Now, I was even more wired. My mind was a hornet's nest of frustration. Lying in bed, only one thought echoed in my head. If that were me, I'd make that cheating pair pay. Dearly. My eyes snapped open to a piercing headache and the low, indistinct chatter of a crowd. Where am I? I muttered, rubbing my temples. I looked around and found myself tucked into the corner of an upscale coffee shop. Carter, are you even listening to me? A sharp, feminine voice cut through the fog. I looked up. Across the table was a woman with a perfectly made-up face, almond eyes, cherry-red lips, and softly curled hair. A genuine beauty, except for the impatient scowl twisting her features. Then, like a flash flood, the memories came rushing in. Carter? Wasn't that the name of the spineless loser from Recollections of a Love Lost, the book I was just cursing? The one whose story was so infuriating I'd skip to the end just to see him die. I had somehow become Carter Evans, the chump who gets played by his girlfriend, Chloe Vance, and her so-called best friend, Leo Zhao, only to end up broke and dead. System binding successful. A cold, mechanical voice echoed inside my skull. Mission: change the protagonist's fate. Make those who harmed you pay. Rewards: wealth, skills, physical enhancement. A system. I nearly laughed out loud. We're saved. It seemed even the universe couldn't stand the original Carter's weakness and sent me to rewrite the ending. Carter, what are you smirking at? Chloe snapped, slapping the table and drawing a few curious glances. I've told you a million times, Leo is just my best friend. Can you stop being so insecure? I followed her gaze to a young man in designer casual, where weaving through the tables, 2 coffees in hand. Leo Zhao, the snake who called Carter his bro while sleeping with his girlfriend. Chloe, your caramel macchiato, Leo said, placing the cup in front of her. His fingers accidentally brushed the back of her hand. He then turned to me. Carter, my man, an Americano, right? I ignored the coffee and pulled out my phone, discreetly turning on the voice recorder. Thanks, Leo. You're always so thoughtful, remembering what I like, Chloe said, taking a sip and flashing him a sweet smile. Some people, after 3 years together, don't know anything except how to be jealous. 3 years is nothing, Leo said, leaning casually against the back of Chloe's chair, his eyes fixed on me in a clear challenge. Is that right? I smiled, placing my phone on the table. Like how she likes it. The coffee shop went silent. A few nearby patrons swiveled their heads, their faces alight with the unmistakable thrill of drama. Chloe's face turned scarlet. Carter, what the hell are you talking about? Leo's expression soured. Dude, that's out of line. Chloe and I are just friends. Friends who text, I miss you at 2 in the morning. I opened my photo gallery and held up a screenshot of the text Leo had sent her last night. Friends who have bestie dates 3 times a week that I'm never invited to? Friends where you just happen to show up to comfort her every single time we have a fight. Chloe shot to her feet. You went through my phone? Carter, you're disgusting. More disgusting than the 2 of you sneaking around behind my back. I scoffed. Chloe, for 3 years, I bought you bags and makeup, came running whenever you called, and stayed up all night with you when you were sick. And in the end, I'm worth less to you than this smooth-talking best friend? Carter, Leo stepped forward. You're a grown man. Don't you think you're being a little petty? Oh, I think it's fun, I said, rising to my feet and looking down on him. And don't stand so close to me. You might not like what happens next. I turned back to Chloe. Starting today, you can be friends with whoever you want. I'm done. What are you trying to say? Chloe's voice trembled. I'm saying, I said, grabbing my jacket and speaking each word with precision. We're breaking up. I wish you and your best friend a lifetime of happiness. With that, I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, I could hear Chloe's hysterical shout. Carter, you'll regret this. I pushed open the glass door without a backward glance, the warm sun hitting my face. Congratulations, host. Initial counterattack complete. The system's voice chimed in. Reward, basic combat skills. Seed capital of $10,000 has been deposited into your account. I took a deep breath and smiled. This was just the beginning. My dear ex-girlfriend and your best friend, your good old days are officially over. I stood at the door of the apartment the original Carter had rented, the key grinding in the lock. The door swung open, releasing a wave of musty air. Seriously? People live like this? I grimaced, surveying the tiny, sub-300 square foot studio. A few photos of Chloe were taped to the wall, and a framed picture of the two of them sat on the nightstand. The original Carter grinning like an idiot, Chloe's expression clearly forced. With a sigh, I started taking inventory of his possessions. The closet held a few cheap shirts and a pair of jeans. A beat-up wallet in a drawer contained his ID, a couple of loyalty cards, and a grand total of 87 crumpled dollars in cash. Under the bed, however, I found a small, locked metal box. I pried it open. Inside was a collection of receipts for gifts bought for Chloe and stubs from trips taken to see her. Simps get nothing, I muttered, dumping the whole pathetic collection into the trash. My phone buzzed with a notification from WhatsApp. It was Chloe. Carter, you were way out of line today. You need to apologize to Leo, in person, or I'm never speaking to you again. Is she for real? What kind of twisted logic is that? I sneered and tossed the phone onto the bed. The system chimed in again. Basic combat skills activated. Host now possesses fighting capabilities equivalent to 5 years of professional training. Instantly, a warmth spread through my muscles as a flood of combat techniques poured into my mind. I instinctively dropped into a fighting stance, my body moving through a fluid series of attacks and defensive maneuvers. Damn, I said, throwing a combination into the air. The movements were crisp and clean, my fist cutting through the air with a soft whistle. After a cold shower, I sat on the edge of the bed and started making a plan. First, I had to get out of this dump. Second, I had to make that toxic pair pay. My phone buzzed again. Chloe, why aren't you answering me? I'm really mad this time. And don't think buying me a new bag will fix it. Classic. Right on script. I swiped the notification away and started digging through my new memories for information on Leo and Chloe. Leo Zhao, 25, heir to the Zhao construction fortune. His Instagram was a curated feed of luxury cars, expensive watches, and exclusive parties. The quintessential trust fund brat. I remembered that around this time, Zhao Construction was in hot water for stiffing its suppliers and was dealing with 2 major lawsuits over quality control issues. Financial crisis? I narrowed my eyes, making a mental note. Chloe worked at an advertising agency called Innovate Ad Group as a design assistant. A bit of challenge. I licked my lips. My stomach rumbled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since I'd arrived in this world. I threw on a jacket, deciding to hit a nearby ATM for some cash and grab a decent meal. Just as I got downstairs, a familiar BMW X5 screeched to a halt at the complex entrance. The window rolled down to reveal Leo's punchable face. Well, Carter, heading out so late? He asked with fake sincerity. In the passenger seat, a heavily made-up Chloe was trying to look anywhere but at me. I shoved my hands in my pockets and strolled over. What's the matter? Showing off my ex-girlfriend in front of my building. Chloe turned her head away, but her ears were practically twitching. Leo's smile didn't falter. Don't be like that. Chloe was upset, so I'm taking her for a drive. By the way, I heard you're a little tight on cash lately. If you need help, just ask. I noticed his right hand was resting casually on Chloe's thigh, and she wasn't pushing it away. No, thanks, I said, a knowing smirk spreading across my face. You, on the other hand, things must be tough with the family business, right? I heard a few suppliers are getting ready to sue. Leo's face fell. What are you talking about? Also, I leaned closer to the open window, my voice low. Didn't I tell you to stay away from me? Before he could react, I delivered a resounding slap across his smug face. So satisfying. You have to strike when the iron is hot. This was just an appetizer. I had no interest in watching their shocked reactions. I turned and walked away, Chloe's shrill yelling fading behind me. After withdrawing $5,000 in cash, I found a decent-looking restaurant and treated myself to a steak. By the time I got back to the apartment, my phone was ringing, this time from an unknown number. Hello. I answered. Mr. Carter Evans, a steady male voice asked. This is Trevor Hayes, from Hayes Capital. I heard you have some unique insights into the financial markets. I frowned. Mr. Hayes, I think you have the wrong number. The man on the other end chuckled. This afternoon, you analyzed Zhao Construction stock, predicting it would plummet by 30% within 2 weeks. I happened to be sitting at the table behind you. I thought back. I might have muttered something to myself while I was eating. Thanks to my foreknowledge, I knew Zhao Construction was about to get exposed for cooking their books, causing their stock to crash. You have sharp ears, Mr. Hayes, I replied cautiously. Are you interested in stopping by my office tomorrow for a chat? I'm very interested in your analysis, Trevor Hayes said, his tone leaving no room for refusal. I considered it for a second. It would be my honor. Hanging up, I couldn't help but smile. Trevor Hayes was clearly a power player. He managed to track me down in just a few hours. I started packing. I couldn't stand another day in this hellhole. As I was taping up a box, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Chloe. Her eyes were red and swollen, like she'd just been crying. "Carter, I know you're in there. Open up," she yelled, pounding on the door. I leaned against the door, calmly lighting a cigarette. "What is it? Why would you do that to Leo? He didn't do anything wrong." Chloe's voice was thick with tears. "You're coming with me to apologize to him right now." I almost laughed out loud. "Who do you think you are, telling me what to do? What's the problem? I hit him instead of you." "You." She was shaking with rage. "Carter, you've changed. You were never like this." "You're right, I have," I said, pulling the door open and looking down at her. "The old Carter is dead. You and your best friend killed him." Chloe stumbled back, intimidated by my presence. "What? What do you want?" I took a step forward, forcing her back until her back was against the hallway wall. "Listen to me," I said, planting a hand on the wall next to her head and leaning in close. "From now on, I make the rules. And what you and Leo Zhao owe me, I'm going to collect with interest." I stepped back into the apartment and slammed the door in her face. I could hear her muffled curses and the sound of her stomping away, but I was already at my computer, researching my meeting for tomorrow and planning my next investment. Trevor Hayes' office was on the top floor of the most prestigious skyscraper in downtown Austin. A floor-to-ceiling window offered a panoramic view of the entire city. "Mr. Evans, please have a seat." Trevor stood from his leather executive chair and offered his hand. He looked to be in his early 50s, with salt and pepper hair, a perfectly tailored suit, and a Patek Philippe on his wrist that glinted subtly in the sunlight. I sat across from him, silently sizing up the business tycoon who had only made a brief appearance in the original novel. "Coffee? Tea?" Trevor asked. "Water is fine," I replied with a smile. His assistant brought in a bottle of mineral water. I took a sip and waited for him to begin. "You're a man of many talents, Mr. Evans," Trevor said, opening a file on his desk. "I've looked at Zhao Construction's financials. On the surface, they look great, but underneath, the company is rotting from the inside out. That's all inside information, though. How did you spot the problem?" I had my story ready. The construction sector as a whole is in a downturn, yet Zhao is expanding aggressively. Their capital chain has to be stretched thin. Add to that the recent string of quality complaints on their government contracts, and it was only a matter of time before the whole thing imploded. A flicker of appreciation crossed Trevor's eyes. "Insightful. And you really think their stock will drop 30%? "That's a conservative estimate," I said, setting my glass down. "If the financial fraud gets exposed, it could get halted entirely." "Interesting," Trevor said, closing the file. "Where are you working these days, Mr. Evans?" "Freelance. Mostly investing." I lied without batting an eye. "Well, how about this?" Trevor said, steepling his fingers on the desk. "I provide the capital, you manage the trades. We split the profits 70-30. I get 70. I laughed. "Mr. Hayes, I provide the intel and the strategy, and I only get 30%. Young man, do you have any idea how many people would kill for a chance to work with me?" Trevor narrowed his eyes. "But none of them can guarantee you a 30% return in 2 weeks, I said, looking him straight in the eye. 50-50, or I find another partner." Silence descended on the office. The clouds outside drifted slowly past, casting shifting shadows on Trevor's face. "Ha ha!" He suddenly burst out laughing. "I like you. You got guts. 50-50 it is." Before I left, Trevor handed me a black credit card. "There's $5 million in seed money on this. I want to see results in 2 weeks. "You won't be disappointed," I said, tucking the card into my suit pocket. I walked out of the skyscraper into the bright afternoon sun, hailed a cab, and went straight to a brokerage firm to open an account. For the next 10 days, I was a man possessed. I spent my days in the VIP lounge at the brokerage, staring at market data, and my nights back at a hotel, analyzing trends. Yes, I had efficiently moved out of that dump. With my foreknowledge, I not only shorted Zhao Construction, but also pinpointed several tech stocks that were about to soar. The 10,000 from the system had snowballed into over 800,000. Trevor's 5 million had grown to nearly 8 million. On the morning of the 11th day, the news of Zhao Construction's financial fraud broke, just as I predicted. The stock plummeted, hitting its circuit breaker and getting halted. My phone buzzed incessantly with a call from Trevor. "Carter, you magnificent bastard. You're a genius." Trevor's voice on the other end was as ecstatic as a lottery winner's. "We made a killing. Pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Hayes," I said with a smile. "None of that, Mr. Hayes crap. Call me Trevor," he said boisterously. 7 o'clock tonight, the Four Seasons. Dinner's on me. You have to be there." Hanging up, I let out a long breath. Phase 1 was complete. That afternoon, I looked at a few high-end condos and settled on a 2,000 square foot luxury apartment in a downtown high-rise. The rent was $30,000 a month. I paid the deposit and 3 months' rent without a second thought. "Here are your keys, Mr. Evans," the realtor said respectfully. "You can move in today." Back at the hotel, I packed my few belongings. "Goodbye, pathetic life," I whispered, closing the door behind me. The view from my new apartment's floor-to-ceiling windows was breathtaking. Standing there, I sent my new address to Trevor. "Trevor, new place. Stop by sometime." A minute later, he replied, "Nice kid. See you tonight." I took a shower, changed into a brand-new Armani suit, and was tying my tie in front of the mirror when my phone rang. It was Chloe. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. "What is it?" "Carter." Chloe's voice was deliberately soft. "How have you been?" "Great, thanks for asking," I replied coldly. I was just passing by your office. I was hoping to grab a coffee," she said, testing the waters. "There's something I wanted to talk about in person." I almost laughed. The original Carter had been unemployed for 3 months. What office? She couldn't even be bothered to come up with a believable lie. "I'm not at the office," I said, pausing for effect. "I'm downtown, looking at apartments." "Looking at apartments?" Her voice jumped an octave. "You're buying a place?" "Just renting," I said nonchalantly. "The Austonian, top floor." I could hear her sharp intake of breath. The Austonian was one of the most expensive luxury residences in the city. The rent for a penthouse had to be at least 30 grand. "Well, can I come see it?" Chloe asked eagerly. "I'm right nearby." I checked my watch. I had 2 hours before dinner with Trevor. "Suit yourself." Half an hour later, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Chloe standing there in a white sundress, her makeup flawless. She was holding a small cake box. "I brought you tiramisu. Your favorite," she said with a saccharine smile, but her eyes were darting past me, greedily taking in the apartment's interior. I stepped aside to let her in. She moved through the space like a curious cat, her fingers tracing the leather sofa, the marble countertops, and the high-end appliances. The shock and envy in her eyes were impossible to hide. "Carter, this must cost a fortune," she said, her voice trembling as she stood before the panoramic window. "Not really. A little over 30,000. I said, deliberately downplaying it. 30,000. She spun around. "Where did you get that kind of money?" "I earned it," I said, pouring myself a glass of water, but not offering her one. "What did you want to talk about?" Chloe bit her lip, and her eyes suddenly reddened. "Carter, I was wrong. There's nothing going on with Leo. He's really just a friend. I've been thinking a lot these past few days, and you're the one who really gets me." Watching her pathetic performance, I felt nothing but a vague sense of amusement. In the original novel, this exact scene happened after the original Carter won the lottery. Chloe had the same look on her face then, too. "Chloe," I cut through her crocodile tears. "Did you know Leo Zhao's family is about to go bankrupt?" She froze. "WH what?" "Zhao Construction cooked their books, their stock has crashed, and their creditors are knocking at the door," I said, taking slow steps toward her. "And you picked this exact moment to come crawling back to me. Is that a coincidence or a calculation?" Chloe's face went white. She stumbled backward and fell onto the sofa. How do you know all that?" "I know a lot more than you think," I said, leaning over her, my hands on either side of her. "For example, I know the director of your company has been harassing you for 3 months. I know that besides you, Leo is juggling 2 other girls. And I also know—" "Stop it." Chloe clapped her hands over her ears, the tears finally real. "Carter, how could you become like this? Have I changed?" I straightened up and sneered. "Or have I just stopped being a fool?" The doorbell rang again. I went to open it. It was Trevor. He'd arrived early. "Carter, my boy, couldn't wait to see you." Trevor boomed as he walked in, raising an eyebrow when he saw Chloe on the sofa. "Who's this?" "My ex-girlfriend," I said curtly. Chloe hastily wiped her tears and stood up. Her eyes widened when she saw the Patek Philippe on Trevor's wrist. "T. Trevor Hayes?" she stammered. "From Hayes Capital?" Trevor gave her a polite nod. "Hello. Carter, my boy, it's getting late. Shall we?" "1 second. I turned to Chloe. "We're going to dinner. Are you waiting for an invitation?" Chloe stared at me in disbelief. "You're trying to kick me out?" "What else?" I said, grabbing my suit jacket. "Take the cake with you. I don't like sweets." Trevor watched the scene unfold with an amused smirk. Chloe's face alternated between red and white before she finally snatched the cake box and stormed out, her heels clicking angrily down the hall. "Interesting," Trevor said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Youthful energy. Let's go. I've got a few friends who are dying to meet you." In the private dining room at the Four Seasons, Three of the city's biggest players were waiting. Trevor introduced them one by one: a real estate mogul, a tech titan, and a Wall Street heavyweight. I mentally filed away their names, all major characters who appeared much later in the original novel. I was meeting them far ahead of schedule. After a few rounds of drinks, the conversation turned to investments. Fueled by a bit of liquid courage, I made some bold predictions about future tech trends, earning impressed nods from the tycoons. "The kid's got a golden eye," the real estate mogul exclaimed. "Ever thought about being an investment consultant at my firm? I'll start you at 6 figures. Now, you're being cheap," the tech titan cut in. "A talent like Carter belongs at a tech company. We can talk equity." As I fielded their offers, my phone vibrated. It was a text from Chloe. "Carter, is there really no chance for us? I know I was wrong. Please give me one more chance." I didn't reply. I just locked the screen. A late apology is worse than an insult. Besides, there was no way it was sincere. Morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my apartment at the Austonian. I stood in the open-plan kitchen, brewing a cup of coffee. My phone lit up with a bank alert. Balance: $2, 857, 643. Since my arrival in this world, my net worth had multiplied nearly 30-fold. The system's seed money, combined with my profits from the partnership with Trevor, had given me my first real stake. But I knew the game was just getting started. As the aroma of coffee filled the room, I opened my laptop and pulled up a business plan I've been working on for the past few nights. Orasync Technologies, the future of the smart home. It was based on my knowledge of future tech trends. In the original novel's timeline, this sector wouldn't explode for another 2 years. Right now, the market was wide open. My phone buzzed. It was Trevor. "Carter, my boy, you up?" His voice was energetic, showing no signs of last night's late-night drinking. "Morning, Trevor," I said, sipping my coffee. "What's up?" "Something big," he said, his voice low. "That smart home project you mentioned yesterday. I ran it by a few investors, and they're very interested. You free today? Come by the office, we'll talk details." A smile played on my lips. "What time? How's 10? I'll get the whole crew together." "Sound good." After a quick shower, I changed into a set of smart business casuals. The man in the mirror had sharp eyes and a determined jawline, a world away from the spineless wreck who'd been humiliated in a coffee shop just 3 weeks ago. Trevor's office was thick with cigar smoke. In addition to yesterday's trio of magnates, there were 2 new faces: a middle-aged woman with gold-rimmed glasses, whom Trevor introduced as the angel investor Veronica Shaw, and a man in his early 30s, a tech expert named David Chun, who'd just returned from Silicon Valley. "Carter, there you are." Trevor greeted me warmly, slinging an arm around my shoulder. "Come on, give everyone the deep dive on your project." I connected my laptop to the conference room's large screen and began my presentation. "The traditional home is being disrupted by technology," I said, pointing a laser at a data chart. "But what the market currently calls a smart home is nothing more than a glorified remote control for your appliances. It's not truly intelligent." I showcased the prototype design for my proprietary control system, a central hub integrated with machine learning algorithms, IoT connectivity, and advanced voice recognition. Our system learns the user's habits, automatically adjusts the environment, predicts needs, and can even detect the user's mood through micro-expressions and tone of voice to change the lighting, music, and overall ambience. The room was silent. The investors' eyes were gleaming. "What kind of R&D investment are we talking about?" the real estate mogul asked. $5 million for the initial phase, with a beta version ready in 6 months, I answered without hesitation. Mass production within a year, and I project profitability within 2. "And the technical feasibility?" David Chun, the tech expert, pushed up his glasses, his eyes shining with excitement. I brought up several patent documents and algorithmic frameworks. "It's entirely achievable with existing technology. The key is in the algorithm optimization and system integration." Veronica Shaw spoke up. "Mr. Evans, do you have a team?" "I'm building one now," I admitted freely. "If we can secure the investment today, I can start recruiting tomorrow." Trevor slammed his hand on the table. "I'm in for $3 million, for 20% equity." "Trevor, you greedy bastard," the tech titan shot back. "I'll put in $2 million for 10%. An hour later, Orasync Technologies' first round of funding was finalized, a total of $12 million for a 25% stake. The company's valuation was already at nearly $50 million. To a successful partnership, Trevor said, popping a bottle of champagne. "Carter, you're my good luck charm." Amid the clinking of glasses, a new chapter of my life had begun. It was 3 in the afternoon when I left the skyscraper. The spring breeze felt good, so I decided to walk back to my apartment and clear my head. As I was cutting through Zilker Park, a familiar sounding scream caught my attention. Let go of me. What are you doing? I turned to see a drunk, middle-aged man accosting a young woman by a park bench. She was struggling, but he was strong, backing her into a corner. What shocked me more was that I recognized the woman, Sarah Jenkins, Chloe's friend, and one of the few characters in the novel who had been decent to the original Carter. Hey, stop, I shouted, striding over. The drunk turned, his face flushed. Who the hell are you? Mind your own damn business. I didn't waste words. I grabbed his wrist in a textbook control hold, gave it a slight twist, and he squealed like a pig. Get lost. I released him and gave him a kick for good measure. He scrambled away. Thank you, Sarah said, shaken, as she straightened her disheveled clothes. When she looked up and saw my face, her eyes widened in surprise. Carter? Is that you? Long time no see, I said with a faint smile. Want to grab a coffee somewhere? To calm your nerves. In the Parks Cafe, Sarah nervously sipped her latte, her fingers still trembling. Thank you, really. If you hadn't been there. Happy to help. I waved it off. What are you doing here alone anyway? Sarah sighed. I just got out of work and needed some air. Work has been so stressful lately. Still at that ad agency? With Chloe? Yeah, she nodded, then seemed to remember something, her expression turning awkward. Oh, I heard you and Chloe broke up. That's in the past, I said calmly. How was she doing? Sarah bit her lip. Not great. Ever since that day at Starbucks with Leo. She stopped, realizing she'd said too much. What happened at Starbucks? I asked, feigning ignorance. And nothing, Sarah said, shaking her head. Then she sighed again. Honestly, Chloe's having a rough time. That director at work is harassing her relentlessly. And Leo? What about Leo? Sarah lowered her voice. He's making her go out drinking with some of his dad's clients. One of them, a guy named Vince, is really handsy. I sneered internally. In the novel, this happened much later. My arrival had clearly accelerated the timeline. Why doesn't she just say no? Leo told her it's crucial for his family to get an investment, Sarah said with a bitter smile. Chloe's trapped. The director is pressuring her at work, and Leo is using her. She was crying yesterday, saying how much she regrets breaking up with you. I drank my coffee, my face impassive. You make your bed, you lie in it. Sarah looked at me, surprised. Carter, you've changed so much. You never would have talked like that before. People change, I said, shifting the topic. You said work is stressful? What do you do? I'm a graphic designer. I'm on this huge project right now, and the client is a nightmare. We're on the 15th revision, and they're still not happy. She rubbed her temples, the dark circles under her eyes obvious. An idea sparked. Interested in a new job? I just started a tech company, and I'm looking for a UI designer. Sarah's coffee cup froze midair. You started a company. Or Sync Technologies. We're in the smart home space, I said, handing her a freshly printed business card. The pay is 30% higher than what you're making now. 9 to 5, no overtime. Sarah took the card, her eyes widening. CEO? Carter? What? Interview tomorrow? I asked with a smile. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Okay. We exchanged contact information. As we left the cafe, the sun was setting. Carter, Sarah asked suddenly, do you hate Chloe? I looked towards the distant skyline. Some things you just have to do. Otherwise, you can't move on. Before we parted ways, Sarah seemed to make a decision. There's something you should know. Leo's family company is about to go under. His dad is borrowing money from everyone, even loan sharks. I don't think Chloe knows. I nodded. Thanks for the heads up. Back in my apartment, I stood by the window, watching the city lights come on. My phone vibrated. It was a picture message from an unknown number. The photo showed Chloe, heavily made up in a revealing evening gown, drinking with a bald, older man. The man's hand was brazenly on her thigh. A second message followed. See this? Your ex-girlfriend is my new arm candy. Leo Zhao. I scoffed and replied, get a better angle. The lighting is terrible. The bubble appeared immediately, but no message came through. He was probably stunned by my response. I opened my laptop and started digging into the Zhao family's latest financials. As expected, Zhao construction stock had dropped another 8%. Multiple suppliers were suing, and the banks were calling in their loans. Desperate measures, I murmured, dismissing Leo's pathetic taunt. The next morning, Sarah arrived on time for her interview at the temporary office space I'd rented. She brought a portfolio of her design work. It was clean, modern, and had an international flair. You're very talented, I said after looking through it, making my decision on the spot. The job's yours. $20,000 a month, full benefits. Can you start tomorrow? Sarah's jaw dropped. That's it? I'm hired? You're not going to interview anyone else. I trust my gut. I said, standing up and extending my hand. Welcome to Sync Technologies. She hesitated for a second before taking my hand. Carter, can I ask you something? Shoot. Why are you helping me? Is it because of Chloe? I saw the nervous look on her face and suddenly smiled. No, she has no influence on me. I'm hiring you because you're worth it. Sarah's face flushed red. Just as the moment was turning a bit delicate, the office door was thrown open. Chloe stood there, pale and wide-eyed, her face streaked with tears. Her expression twisted when she saw me and Sarah holding hands. Carter, you, the two of you. Her voice trembled. Sarah, how could you betray me? Sarah quickly pulled her hand away. Chloe, it's not what you think. Then what is it? Chloe screamed, storming into the room. I was looking all over for you, trying to get your help. And you told me you had an emergency. Was this your emergency? Seducing my ex-boyfriend. I watched the drama unfold with cold detachment, noticing a distinct hickey on Chloe's neck and a bruise on her wrist. Chloe, I interrupted her tirade calmly. This is my company. Sarah is here for a job interview. Now please, get out. Your company? Chloe laughed mockingly. Carter, when did you learn to be such a pathological liar? As if you could. Her words died in her throat as Trevor Hayes walked in with several other investors. Carter, my boy, Trevor stopped, raising an eyebrow at the scene. Oh, company? Chloe recognized the city's most famous business tycoon, and her face froze. Trevor, perfect timing, I said casually. Chloe looked like she'd been struck by lightning. She staggered back a few steps, then turned and fled the office. Sarah looked worriedly after her. I should go check on her. Don't. I stopped her. Adults have to live with the consequences of their choices. After the meeting, Trevor and I had a coffee. The Zhao family is on its last legs, he said suddenly. Old man Zhao came to me for a loan today. Offered me an insane interest rate. Did you give it to him? Hell no. Trevor sneered. That company is a toxic asset. Anyone who touches it goes down with it. But, he lowered his voice. I heard his son is so desperate for investors, he's even pimping out his girlfriend. My grip on my coffee cup tightened. Is that reliable? 100%. Heard it at a dinner party last night. Vince Moretti was bragging about it. Said he had a little fun with the Zhao kid's girlfriend. My temples throbbed. In the novel, Chloe was forced to sleep with investors, but that was much later, and the original Carter never found out. Which Vince? Vince the Shark Moretti. He's in construction supplies. A real bottom feeder, Trevor said with disgust. The Zhaos are clearly desperate. I silently filed the name away. The plan needed to be adjusted. That evening, I stood at my window, looking out at the city. My phone lit up. It was Chloe. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. A text message followed. Carter, I was wrong. Please give me one more chance. Leo is a monster. I didn't reply. Instead, I dialed another number. Sarah, before you start tomorrow, could you do me a favor? At the rehearsal for the Sync Technologies product launch, the venue was a hive of activity. I stood center stage, adjusting the volume on my headset, lights up by 30%. Main screen, switched to the product demo video. I spoke into my walkie-talkie. The spotlights above brightened, and the massive curved screen behind me lit up with our slickly produced promotional video. On screen, the smart home system fluidly controlled every corner of a house, and a gentle AI voice answered questions and even anticipated the homeowner's needs. It looks perfect. Sarah ran out from backstage, holding a newly revised brochure. The printers worked overnight to get these done. Can you check the colors? I took the brochure and flipped through it. Sarah's design was clean and sophisticated, perfectly capturing the high-tech yet user-friendly feel of our product. Over the past month, she had worked late almost every night. The dark circles under her eyes were barely concealed by her makeup. This is great, I said sincerely. You've worked really hard on this. Sarah shook her head, though a smile escaped her. It's my job. But honestly, Carter, I never thought I'd get to be part of something so amazing. Just as I was about to reply, my phone vibrated. It was Chloe's number. It was the 5th time she had called today. Her again. Sarah noticed the shift in my expression. Yeah, I said, locking the screen. Ignore it. Sarah looked like she wanted to say something, but held back. Should we continue the rehearsal? Let's keep going. The launch was set for 10 o'clock the next morning. More than 50 media outlets and 100 industry insiders were confirmed to attend. We had already received inquiries from 3 international venture capital firms. Before a product had even launched, its valuation was already being talked about in the 9-figure range. After the rehearsal wrapped up late that night, I had a quick meeting with the core team before sending everyone home. Sarah volunteered to stay behind and double-check the materials for the next day. I'll give you a ride home, I offered, seeing how she was struggling to keep her eyes open. No, it's fine. I can get an Uber, she said, rubbing her eyes. You're the star tomorrow. You need to be well rested. It's late. It's not safe, I insisted. Sarah finally relented. My new car was a black Mercedes S-Class, understated but luxurious. The scent of fine leather filled the car, and Sarah was practically asleep the moment she sat in the passenger seat. Sleep if you're tired, I said, turning down the music. I'll wake you when we get there. She mumbled an incoherent reply, her head lolling toward the window. At a red light, I gently guided her head to rest on my shoulder. She murmured something in her sleep, but didn't wake up. Sarah lived in a modest apartment complex on the east side of town. When I pulled up to her building, she was still sound asleep, her long eyelashes casting tiny shadows on her cheeks in the glow of the streetlights. After a moment's hesitation, I gently woke her. Are we here? She asked, blinking sleepily. She realized her head was on my shoulder and immediately sat up straight, her face flushing red. I'm so sorry. Did I? It's fine, I smiled. Go on up and get some rest. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, she said, hurrying out of the car. She took a few steps, then turned back. Carter. Yeah. Thank you. Her eyes sparkled in the dim light. I watched until she was safely inside her building before driving off. It was 3 a.m. by the time I got home. I took a cold shower and stood by the window, thinking through my next moves. Leo's recent actions told me everything I needed to know. The Zhao family was cornered and desperate. They wouldn't resort to pimping out a girlfriend if they had any other cards to play. My phone lit up with a text from Sarah. Break a leg tomorrow. I know you're going to blow them all away. The simple message sent a wave of warmth through me. The next morning, the Orasync launch event was packed. I walked onto the stage in a custom-tailored suit, faced the hundreds of attendees and flashing cameras, and began my speech with complete composure. The history of human habitation is a story of the pursuit of convenience and comfort. My voice carried through the high-end sound system, filling the auditorium. And today, Orasync Technologies will usher in a new era of smart living. The demonstration went off without a hitch. Our system not only recognized voice commands with stunning accuracy, but also used machine learning to anticipate user needs. When the system dimmed the lights and played my favorite music before I even had to ask, a wave of gasps and applause rippled through the audience. During the Q&A, a reporter from a tech journal raised her hand. Mr. Evans, there are rumors that your company's technology was plagiarized from a Silicon Valley startup. How do you respond to that? The room fell silent. I didn't flinch. That is a baseless rumor. We own the intellectual property for all of our core technologies and have already filed for 17 patents. I clicked the remote, and the giant screen displayed the patent office's official filing documents. We welcome the scrutiny of our friends in the media. After the launch, investment offers flooded in. Trevor clapped me on the shoulder, beaming. Carter, my boy, we've hit the jackpot. The guys from GTC Capital just offered to buy a 20% stake for $300 million. Just as I was about to respond, Sarah rushed over, her face grim. Carter, we have a problem. She handed me her phone. The screen showed a trending news headline. Shocking. CEO of Orasync's ex-girlfriend exposes tech theft and financial fraud. The accompanying photo was of Chloe, tearfully giving an interview. What is this? I frowned. When did this happen? It was published an hour ago, Sarah said, biting her lip. It's already everywhere. Trevor snatched the phone and scanned the article, his face growing darker. What is this bitch talking about? Saw Carter steal trade secrets with her own eyes? The company is actually on the verge of bankruptcy? This is all bullshit. I, however, remained calm. Don't worry. This is Leo's retaliation. As if on cue, my phone rang. It was Leo. I answered. So, Mr. CEO, Leo's smug voice came through the line. How'd the big launch go? What do you want, Leo? I asked calmly. Straight to the point. I like that, he laughed. It's simple. I want 30% of your company's shares. Otherwise, Chloe's little interview is just the appetizer. I know you have a meeting with those American investors next week. It would be a shame if this insider info reached their ears. Let me think about it, I said, feigning hesitation. Don't think too long, Leo threatened. I want an answer by noon tomorrow. Or else. After I hung up, Trevor was pacing frantically. Carter, what are we going to do? Those American VCs are obsessed with corporate reputation. Carter, Sarah looked at me, her eyes filled with worry. What's your plan? A cold smile spread across my face. We'll play his game, and we'll win. The morale of the team had obviously taken a hit. I called everyone into the conference room. Listen up, I said, standing at the head of the room, my voice firm. Orasync technologies will not be brought down by these pathetic tactics. On the contrary, this is what will make us stronger. After the meeting, Sarah stayed behind. Carter, I got what you asked for. She handed me a flash drive. Vince Moretti's company has been supplying Zhao Construction with substandard materials for years. The two of them have been in cahoots for a long time. This drive has their transaction records and emails. There are several explicit mentions of special entertainment. And most importantly, I found an audio recording of Leo and Chloe plotting this whole thing. I plugged in the drive and quickly scanned the contents, a smile playing on my lips. Sarah, you're a lifesaver. How can I ever repay you? Sarah's face turned beet red. What? What do we do now? We strike first, I said, my playful tone gone, replaced by ice. Leo thinks he's won, but the game is just beginning. Leo Zhao would never in his wildest dreams imagine that I had already turned nearly everyone close to him. In my world, he had no secrets. The air in the Orasync conference room was thick with tension. I sat at the head of the table, looking at each member of my core team, Trevor, David, Sarah, and our new marketing director, Mark Shin. The projector displayed headlines from various media outlets covering the scandal, and our pre-IPO valuation had already taken a 15% hit. So that's the situation, I said, clicking the remote to the next slide. Leo Zhao is using Chloe to spread rumors, with the goal of extorting shares from the company. Trevor slammed his fist on the table. That son of a bitch. I'm going to kill him. Trevor, calm down. I motioned for him to sit. Violence isn't the answer. Then what is? Trevor demanded, still fuming. Are we actually going to give in the shares? I smiled slightly and pulled a flash drive from my briefcase. Let's watch this first. The contents of the drive left everyone speechless. The audio recording of Chloe and Leo conspiring, and the transaction records between Vince Moretti and Leo. This is dynamite. Mark exclaimed. This is more than enough to sue them for defamation. Patience, I said, pocketing the drive. Suing them now is letting them off easy. I have a better plan. I laid out my counteroffensive. Let the rumors fester for one more day while we secretly contacted a few reputable news organizations. The next morning, we would hold a press conference to not only clear our name, but also expose the entire Zhao family's criminal activities. Finally, we would completely turn public opinion around before the American investors arrived. It's too risky, David said, pushing up his glasses. What if? There is no what if. I cut him off. Everything is already in place. After the meeting, Sarah stayed behind. She came to stand beside me, and the faint scent of gardenias filled the air. I found more information on Vince Moretti. She handed me a file. He's not just a supplier for the Zhaos. He's been laundering money for Alexander Zhao for years. This is a partial record of the money trail. I scanned the document, my brow furrowing. Where did you get this? I have a college friend who works at the SEC, Sarah said with a sly wink. Of course, I didn't tell him why I needed it. I couldn't help but reach out and gently tousle her hair. You're my guardian angel. Sarah's face flushed, but she didn't pull away. Carter, She took a deep breath, as if steeling herself. I have feelings for you, not as my boss, but as a person. I was stunned. I had sensed her affection, but I never expected her to be so direct. I know this is probably not the right time, she said, looking down, especially when you're in the middle of this war. But I was afraid if I didn't say it, I'd miss my chance. I gently lifted her chin, making her meet my gaze. Sarah, I have feelings for you too, but there are some things I have to take care of first. Understand, she said, her hand finding mine. I'll wait. I leaned in and kissed her forehead. I promise, it won't be long. The Orasync press conference was held as scheduled. The room was packed with reporters, their cameras all aimed at the podium. I walked on stage in a dark blue suit, completely composed. Thank you all for coming today, I said into the microphone. Yesterday's false accusations have caused significant damage to Orasync, and today, I am here to reveal the truth. I played the contents of the flash drive. When the audio recording filled the room, a collective gasp went through the crowd. The camera flashes became a solid wall of light. This is not just a case of commercial slander. It is a serious criminal conspiracy, I said grimly. The police are already involved. Reporters frantically raised their hands. I answered their questions one by one, skillfully steering the conversation toward Zhao Construction's financial troubles. Regarding the accusation that my company committed financial fraud, the reality is precisely the opposite, I said, clicking the remote. The screen displayed charts showing the financial irregularities of Zhao Construction. This is the real fraud, and the person who reported it is. I paused for dramatic effect. The room was dead silent. Mr. Vince Moretti. The bombshell sent the press into a frenzy. As a longtime partner of the Zhao family, Moretti's whistleblowing was a fatal blow. After the press conference, the narrative flipped instantly. Orisink's valuation not only recovered, but hit a new high. Zhao Construction, on the other hand, was delisted, its trading suspended indefinitely. Back in my office, Trevor burst in, roaring with laughter. "Carter, you're a god." Alexander Zhao was just taken in for questioning, and that slimeball Moretti has skipped town. "What about Leo?" I asked. "That little punk is probably hiding in a hole somewhere, shaking in his boots." Trevor slapped my shoulder. "By the way, the folks from GTC Capital arrived early. 7 o'clock tonight, private room at the Four Seasons. Don't be late." That evening, I went back to my apartment to change into a more formal suit. Just before I left, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Carter," a raspy male voice said when I answered. "You're ruthless." "Leo," I scoffed. "Find a safe place to hide." "Don't get cocky," he screamed into the phone. "You think this is over? I'm telling you, as long as I'm alive, you'll never know peace." "Is that a threat?" I asked calmly. "Does your family know how brave you are?" I heard the sound of something smashing on the other end. "You just wait. Don't think I don't know anything. I'll make you and that bitch Sarah Jenkins pay." The line went dead. I frowned and immediately called Sarah. "Where are you?" "At the office, just getting the materials for tonight's meeting ready." She sounded confused. "What's wrong?" "Leo just called. He threatened you." I said quickly. "I'm coming to get you right now. Do not go anywhere alone." When I arrived at the office, Sarah was waiting in the lobby. She was wearing a pale blue dress, her hair swept up in a loose bun, giving her a more mature look. "You don't have to be so worried," she said, getting into the car. "Leo can't do anything now. He's got his own problems." "Never underestimate a desperate man," I said seriously. "After the meeting tonight, I'm taking you home." The private room at the Four Seasons was opulent. GTC Capital's 3 representatives were already seated. The man in charge was a silver-haired gentleman named James Wilson, a senior partner. Dinner went smoothly. Our product demonstration was met with high praise, and Wilson even suggested that GTC could lead our next round of funding. "Mr. Evans," Wilson said after a few glasses of wine, "I'm curious. How did you manage to build such an excellent team in such a short amount of time?" I glanced at Sarah and Trevor sitting beside me and smiled. "Because I believe the right people are more important than the right idea." Under the table, Sarah gave my hand a gentle squeeze. After dinner, Trevor insisted on escorting the GTC team back to their hotel. Sarah and I walked toward the parking garage, the gentle night air enveloping us. "Today went so well," Sarah said, looking up at the stars. "Carter, you did it." "We did it," I corrected her. "Without your help, I couldn't have turned things around so quickly." She suddenly stopped walking. "Carter, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you still have feelings for Chloe?" I shook my head. "Not for a long time. Not since the moment I knew she betrayed me." When we reached her apartment, she hesitated. "Do you want to come in for coffee?" I glanced at my watch. It was almost 11. "I have work tomorrow. Maybe another time." A flicker of disappointment crossed her face, but it was quickly replaced by a smile. "Okay. Good night." "Good night," I said, leaning in to give her a soft kiss on the cheek. "Sweet dreams." The next morning, I had just arrived at the office when I got an urgent call from Trevor. "Carter, big news. Alexander Zhao had a heart attack last night. He's in the hospital." "Is it serious?" I asked. "He's not dead, if that's what you mean." Trevor's voice was laced with schadenfreude. "But Zhao Construction is in total chaos. The banks are liquidating their assets, and the creditors have blocked the company's entrance." "Any sign of Leo?" "Nope. The cops are looking for him everywhere. Drug possession, assault, commercial slander. The list is a mile long. But they did arrest that bitch who slandered us. So Leo didn't take Chloe with him when he ran." I sneered internally. I hung up and checked the market. Zhao Construction was still halted, while Orisink's pre-IPO valuation had jumped another 7%. As I was watching the numbers, Sarah knocked and came in with 2 cups of coffee. "Morning," she said, handing me one. "Did you see the news? The Zhao family is finished." "I saw," I said calmly. As I took the cup, my fingers brushed against hers, and a jolt of electricity shot through me. I pulled her onto my lap. She blushed and gently pushed me. "Stop it. We're at the office." Just as the mood was turning intimate, my phone buzzed. It was a video message from an unknown number. The video showed a young woman tied to a chair, her mouth taped shut, her eyes wide with terror. A text followed. "Recognize her? If not, ask your new girlfriend. Come alone to the abandoned chemical plant on the north side. Otherwise, you know what happens. Leo Zhao." I shot to my feet, the chair crashing to the floor behind me. "What is it?" Sarah asked, startled. I showed her the phone. Her face went deathly pale. Oh my God, that's my cousin, Emily. Have you been in contact with her? Not really. She moved out of state after college. Sarah's voice trembled. I made a split-second decision. First, confirm your cousin's status. Sarah immediately called her family. From her increasingly horrified expression, the news wasn't good. Emily said she was going on a trip last week, and no one's been able to reach her since. Hanging up, Sarah covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. Carter, we have to save her. I grabbed her cold hand. Stay calm. The person Leo really wants is me. He won't hurt the hostage, not yet. I immediately dialed Trevor. Trevor, Leo kidnapped Sarah's cousin. He's at the abandoned chemical plant on the north side. I need backup, but it has to be discreet. We can't let him know we're coming. Damn it, that kid has a death wish. Trevor cursed. I'll make the arrangements, but whatever you do, do not go in there alone. After hanging up, Sarah gripped my arm. Carter, it's too dangerous. Let's wait for the police. There's no time, I said, gently pulling my arm free. I opened a hidden compartment in my desk and retrieved a tactical knife, tucking it into my waistband. Leo is cornered. He's capable of anything. Then I'm going with you. No, I snapped and softened my tone. You wait here. I promise I will bring your cousin back safely. Sarah's tears fell like broken pearls. You have to be careful. I cupped her face in my hands and gave her a firm kiss. Wait for me. The abandoned chemical plant was a notorious polluter, shut down by the city a decade ago and left to rot. By the time I arrived, the setting sun had painted the rusted-out buildings in shades of blood red. I parked my car out of sight and checked my gear. Knife, micro earpiece, high-lumen flashlight, and a stun gun Trevor had just delivered. Static crackled in my ear, followed by Trevor's hushed voice. Carter, my guys have the plant surrounded, but we can't get too close. Thermal imaging shows 5 individuals in the main building. One of them should be the hostage. Copy that. I whispered back. I'm going in. Wait for my signal. Be careful. That lunatic Leo might have a gun. I moved low and fast toward the main building. The rusted metal door was slightly ajar, and I could hear muffled voices from inside. Peeking through the crack, I saw a vast empty space. In the center, Emily Jenkins was tied to a metal chair, surrounded by 4 men. Leo stood with his back to the door, dangling something in front of her. Your cousin and that bastard Carter ruined my family. Leo's voice was seething with hatred. Today, they're going to pay. Emily whimpered, her mouth taped shut, shaking her head in terror. There was no chance for a stealth attack. I took a deep breath and shoved the door open. Leo, they all spun around. A flicker of surprise crossed Leo's face, quickly replaced by a twisted grin. Carter, you finally made it. He held up the object in his hand, a remote detonator. You know what this is? The floor beneath your feet is wired with explosives. I push this button, and we all go to hell together. I stood my ground, scanning the floor. Sure enough, I could just make out thin wires running from Leo's feet into the concrete. What do you want? I asked calmly. Money? Shares. I want you dead, he shrieked. Get on your knees. Beg me. I started walking forward slowly. Leo, your father's been arrested. If you surrender now, you might get a lighter sentence. Shut up, he waved the detonator wildly. One more step, and I blow us all to kingdom come. I stopped, maintaining a distance of about 30 feet. His 4 goons fanned out, blocking my escape. You know why I really hate you? Leo asked suddenly. It's not because of Chloe. That bitch is easy. It's because you're trash, a nobody from the gutter. How the hell did you climb so high above me? I sneered. Because I'm smarter than you. I work harder than you, and I'm not a monster. Leo's face contorted with rage. Get him, but leave him breathing. The 4 thugs charged at once. I steadied my breath. Judging by their stances, they weren't amateurs. The first one, a burly brute, threw a punch at my face. I dodged, grabbed his wrist, and flipped him over my shoulder. He hit the ground with a sickening crunch. The next 2 came at me together, one with a steel pipe, the other with a switchblade. I backpedaled to avoid the pipe while drawing my own knife to parry the blade, sparks flying as the steel clashed. As the knife wielder stumbled off balance, I delivered a powerful sidekick to his knee. A sharp crack echoed in the warehouse, and he went down screaming. The pipe swung at me again. I dodged the main blow, but it glanced off my shoulder, sending a searing pain down my arm. Gritting my teeth, I lunged forward, my knife slicing across his forearm, drawing blood. The 4th goon tried to ambush me from behind, wrapping his arm around my neck. I slammed my elbow into his ribs, and as his grip loosened, I headbutted him square on the nose, sending him staggering back. Useless. All of you are useless. Leo roared. You can't even take down one nerd. I stood up, breathing heavily. I'd been careless, but his 4 thugs were now out of commission. Seeing this, Leo grabbed Emily and held a small knife to her throat. "Carter, drop your weapon, or I'll slit her throat." Emily's eyes were wide with terror, tears streaming down her face. I slowly bent down and placed my knife on the ground. "Kick it over here," Leo commanded. I did as he said. He sneered, shoved Emily to the ground, and bent down to pick up the knife. In that split second, I charged. Leo reacted quickly, lunging at me with the knife. I twisted out of the way, grabbed his wrist, and cranked it hard. He cried out in pain, dropping the knife, but his other hand still clutched the detonator. "You forced me to do this. Let's die together," he laughed maniacally, his thumb moving toward the button. In a desperate move, I lunged and bit down hard on his hand. Leo screamed, and the detonator flew from his grasp. I dove for it, but he tripped me. The device hit the floor, the battery cover popped off, and the batteries scattered. "Damn it!" Leo turned and ran. I started to give chase, but one of the injured thugs grabbed my leg. I kicked free, but it cost me precious seconds. Leo had already reached the back door of the warehouse. He turned and gave me the middle finger. "Carter, this isn't over. His threat was cut short as a police car suddenly careened around the side of the building and slammed into him. Leo's body flew through the air, landing in a crumpled heap on the concrete 10 yards away, motionless. Police swarmed the scene. I ignored everything else and ran to untie Emily. She threw herself into my arms, shaking uncontrollably. Thank you. It's okay. You're safe now." I soothed her, patting her back. I looked up to see Sarah and Trevor running toward us with paramedics. "Emily," Sarah cried, rushing to embrace her cousin. Trevor walked over to me, looking at the scene unfolding around Leo's body. "Kid's got tough luck. Still breathing somehow, but he'll be spending the rest of his life in a wheelchair." I let out a long, slow breath. "It's over." "Yeah, it's over," Trevor clapped my shoulder. "Alexander Zhao is facing multiple charges: financial fraud, money laundering, bribery. He's looking at 15 years minimum. Zhao Construction is bankrupt, and all their assets are frozen." I watched as they loaded Leo onto a stretcher, a sense of grim satisfaction washing over me. "Hey, original Carter, I hope this counts as getting your revenge." It was late when I got back to the office. I had sent Sarah to take her cousin home to rest. I stood alone at the window, looking out at the city's glittering lights. Some people, some problems, just needed to be cleaned up like trash. Finally, I could move on. The next morning, Sarah stopped me the moment I walked into the office. "Carter, did you see the news?" She held up her tablet. The headline read, "Zhao Group Collapses, Chairman Alexander Zhao Jailed." A subheadline added, "Air Leo Zhao critically injured in accident, maybe permanently disabled." I said calmly. "They got what they deserve." Sarah nodded. "Emily wants to thank you in person. Are you free tonight?" "I'm making dinner." "I would be honored." I smiled. That evening, I arrived at Sarah's apartment with a bottle of good red wine. Emily had recovered significantly. She was still a bit shaken, but she was able to talk. "Carter, thank you so much," she said, pouring me a cup of tea. "If it wasn't for you, I might have." "It's all in the past," I said, accepting the tea. "And in a way, you were dragged into this because of me." Dinner was warm and comfortable. Sarah's cooking was surprisingly fantastic. Afterwards, Emily tactfully excused herself, leaving Sarah and me on the balcony to look at the night sky. Sarah's cheeks were flushed. "Carter, I love you." "I love you too," I said, taking her hand. "After the company goes public, let's get married." Her eyes widened. Are you proposing?" "Not officially." I chuckled, pulling a small velvet box from my pocket. "The official proposal will be much more spectacular." She opened the box. Inside was an exquisite diamond ring, sparkling in the moonlight. "Carter," tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "I do. Whether it's official or not, I do." I pulled her into my arms, a sense of peace I'd never known settling over me. Vengeance had been served. This was how the story was always meant to go. The next morning, Trevor called. "Carter, great news. GTC Capital has officially confirmed their investment. $200 million for a 10% stake. That puts our valuation at $2 billion. That's fantastic," I said, genuinely happy. "Thanks for all your hard work, Trevor." "My work? This is all you, kid," he laughed. By the way, Leo Zhao woke up, paralyzed from the waist down, and his mind is a little scrambled. Spouting nonsense all day. Who's paying his medical bills? Public assistance. The Zhaos don't have a penny to their name. Even their house has been seized, Trevor said with unconcealed contempt. Serves him right. I hung up and looked out the window. The sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue. Suddenly, the system's voice chimed in my head one last time. Mission 98% complete. Final step. Establish a foundation to help disenfranchised men, fully correcting the world's narrative. A small smile touched my lips as I opened my laptop and began drafting the charter for the Phoenix Initiative. It was time to create something of real value. The day Orasync Technologies went public, the entire city seemed to be buzzing. Inside the stock exchange, I stood before the massive electronic board, watching our ticker symbol, SYNC, as the numbers climbed relentlessly. It opened at $28 a share and shot up to $35 within 10 minutes. Our market cap blew past $10 billion. Congratulations, Mr. Evans. Trevor, beaming, clapped me on the shoulder. We really hit the big time. I straightened my tie with a modest smile. This was a team effort. The camera flashes were blinding. Reporters shouted questions. I answered a few politely, my eyes occasionally drifting to Sarah, who was standing in a corner. She was wearing a chic pale blue suit, her hair in an elegant updo, watching me with a proud smile. Mr. Evans, we hear you're starting a foundation dedicated to helping disenfranchised men. Can you tell us more about that? A female reporter asked. I nodded. The Phoenix Initiative will officially launch next month. Its primary mission is to support men who have faced injustice in their personal and professional lives by providing legal aid, psychological counseling, and career training. Is this related to your own personal experiences? It is. I admitted freely. I was once a member of that group, and I know the feeling of helplessness all too well. Now that I have the means, I want to help more people find their way out of that darkness. After the press conference, I turned down all invitations to celebratory parties and drove to a construction site on the outskirts of the city. This was the future headquarters of the Phoenix Initiative, a 20-acre campus that would include an office building, a training center, and counseling facilities. The site foreman, a man named Lee, hurried over when he saw me. Mr. Evans, if we stay on schedule, we'll be finished by next month. I looked around. The main structures were already topped out, and workers were installing the glass curtain walls. The quality has to be perfect, Lee. This place is built to last. You can count on me, he said, thumping his chest. I'm personally overseeing every detail. After my inspection, I got a call from Sarah. Are you done yet? I'm waiting for you at the usual spot. Be right there. The usual spot was a small, unassuming ramen shop on the west side where Sarah and I often met. It was tiny, but the owner was a master, and more importantly, no one there knew who we were. We could just have a quiet meal. I pushed open the familiar glass door. Sarah was already at our corner table. 2 steaming bowls of tonkatsu ramen and a few side dishes were waiting. A newly minted tech mogul, still eating at a hole in the wall, she teased, winking. Moguls are people, too, I said, sitting down and inhaling the rich aroma of the broth. This is much better than the IPO party. All I did there was shake hands and drink champagne. I'm starving. Sarah passed me a pair of chopsticks. How are things coming along with the foundation? Smoothly, I said, taking a bite of noodles. It should be operational next month. I've also gotten a few top psychologists and lawyers to volunteer their time. Carter, Sarah suddenly put down her chopsticks and looked at me seriously. I'm so proud of you. I paused and smiled. Why so sentimental all of a sudden? I'm serious. Her eyes were shining. So many people, once they make it, all they think about is enjoying their wealth. But you're thinking about how to help others. That's incredible. I reached across the table and took her hand. It's because I know what it feels like to be abandoned by the world. And I added silently, it was the final step of my mission. It was dark by the time we left the ramen shop. I held Sarah's hand as we strolled along the riverbank. The night breeze was warm, carrying the first hint of summer. 3 months later, the Phoenix Initiative officially opened. During the ribbon-cutting ceremony, surrounded by distinguished guests, the long silent voice of the system echoed in my mind one last time. Mission complete. All rewards permanently unlocked. The host's life will henceforth be free of regret. Goodbye. I stood frozen for a moment, waiting for more, but there was only silence. It was gone, as if it had never been there at all. What's wrong? Sarah asked, noticing my pause. Nothing, I said, shaking my head with a smile. I was just thinking that everything is perfect.